Let me just tweet out, excuse me, and get us sorted there. I wasn't sure I was going to make it this morning because I woke up kind of sick to my stomach, but that's kind of gone down, so hopefully we'll be able to make it through today. Um, excuse me. Just a couple of reminders. There is maintenance today. It's what is it? Yeah, I think it's the usual time, 4 a.m. PDT, 1 p.m. CEST time, and looks like, trying to see what amount of time, 5 hours and 30 minutes. So that's a wee bit longer than usual, but you know, be prepared. So if you've got some videos to catch up on and stuff, I guess that'd be the time to do it. Again, if you happen to be in the chat right now and you'd rather be playing rather than listening to me yabber on, go play and you can watch this later. As well, it is the Shades Eve event that everyone has been highly anticipating. I believe it started on the 20th and it runs through November 2nd. It's your chance to stock up on Shades Eve decor, like the little hay effigies and the spooky windows and the gourds and all of that. There's a lot of uh, decor that's available straight from the housing vendor guy, or not the guy, but the housing vendor from your plot, like the candy pumpkins, like you see here. All the different colors, assortments of those. I think the gourds are there too. I can't remember rightly. But if you do participate in the daily Shades Eve quests, you'll get access to a lot of other goodies, string lights and light posts and other kinds of lanterns and stuff. So that's a good thing to catch up on. And hopefully, you know, you find some good use for them. As we've seen in the past, it doesn't necessarily strictly have to be houses that are Shades Eve or Halloween or spooky themed to be able to use a lot of these pieces, like the gravestones and stuff. We've seen them used cleverly in ways for like cabinetry and structures for buildings and things like that. So there's ways to sneak these holiday related items in even in the off season. So definitely pick up some if you haven't before. Okay, so good morning, Bones and Poi, and yes, this is a recognizable Poi. We're going to start on Jabbit today. We're actually going to visit a house here on Jabbit, and then we're going to switch over to Entity because I've got one house on each region that I want to check out for today in celebration of our Shades Eve themed goodies going on right now. This is Lily Munster's plot, which is an alt of Poi. It's called Munster Mansion. It says it's work in progress. That's mainly because I believe it's the Halloween, or not the Halloween, the Haunted House Fab Kit. It's on the plot, but it hasn't been decorated yet. It's the only thing that isn't complete. But I wanted to show the progress. We actually visited this plot last year. I think it was the 26th of October, if I remember rightly. I looked it up this morning just to double check. And for any of you that remember it from last year, it's changed considerably. While the idea is basically the same, there's been a lot of revisions in how the structure's built. And even the placement of it, because I think in the past it was the mansion itself was up on a hilltop or kind of a rise. And so yeah, there's a lot of things that have been added, and we're just going to kind of go through and check it out to see what Poi has done with the place. Um, hello, 4 of 3. That's a strange name. We're doing good today. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I didn't need to mention. We do have the housing community showdown going on. I believe they're supposed to announce the winners of that particular competition on the 27th, which would be this Friday, I think, yeah. So keep an eye out for that. I've already seen a few players that have been posting some of their screenshot submissions. And so I've been jotting down the names of those communities, but definitely if we get a listing of all of the participants, not just the winners, I will definitely try and start touring some of those afterwards. So probably the month of November would be our first official community tours that we're going to try and do. So yeah, so let's just get started. As I said, this is Lily Munster's plot, Munster Mansion. This is an alt of Poikle Satin. I don't know if that's how you say that name, but I call you Poikle Satin. Anyway, so in the previous tour that we did on this one, the grounds, the landscaping was pretty minimal. There was some bushes and stuff in certain places, but when I looked at it, it was like pretty flat and open. You could see off into the distance. Boy's done a good job of kind of caging the plot in using oversized bramble bushes to kind of give it a little bit more a secluded feel, so that you get this idea that this is kind of often the outside of, the outskirts of town kind of thing. Most of the decor here, excluding like the brambles and such, is Shades Eve related. I mean, you have the spooky trees and the withered branches. You'll see a lot of effects like these little will-o-wisp and smoky bits. That's from the Buoyant Blue Crystal. We said a lot of people like to use that not only for like spooky forests and kind of like haunted feel. It's also a great alternative for those that are looking for some waterfall or water animations, looking for some kind of like a little splash effect or a little bit of steam or smoke, water coming up. So you'll see that there's also going to be some good uses of the haunted items that has like the white ghosty smoky stuff. You also see how some of the grass is lighting up. That's in part due to some of the haunted windows. There's two types. There's the train one where it looks like the light moves across. We've explained that that's good for those that like have lighthouses on their plots. And things like that. But the flashing one that has more like of a lightning effect is really good for the haunted house aficionados because it just lends itself to that spooky feel. I would say that a lot of folks like to use the rainy sky choice, the sky remodel, because it's kind of dark and gloomy. But with a custom house like this, that can be a little detrimental because obviously the rain goes straight through and it looks like it's raining inside the house. If you can get past that, then that's a good sky remodel to choose. But I believe this one is the Jack Shade house remodel. It's got the spooky moon that has the creepy face on it, and it's got that orangey, greeny glow to everything. So a good choice again. And yes, the housing has been updated recently. They just branched out to what they call communities. It's basically like neighborhoods. You can have up to 5 plots connected, physically connected, where you can just walk from one plot to the next. And that's one of the reasons why they're doing the community showdown competition. They wanted to showcase it by encouraging builders to work together to put together some communities that they can tour and show off. I know there was a lot of folks that were kind of disappointed in the amount of time they were given because, a lot of people will spend months, maybe even, years working on a single plot, and they're wanting five in a cohesive kind of community theme and build, and that just adds to the work. But again, it's supposed to be, I think, to encourage multiple players to do these collaborative works. Whereas there have been cases where there are some builders that want to do an entire community plot just by themselves, which is okay, but it's, 5 times the work for a single person as opposed to having 5 people work on the same project. But again, that takes a lot of coordination and communication, and in that short time period, I don't think it was uh, easy for a lot of us to get together and actually brainstorm and actually produce something. I think the ones that had already kind of been anticipating the community's feature and had already been collaborating on the side previous to it actually becoming a live feature had a bit more of a head start on things and was able to tackle it. But yeah, it's just one of those things that it's been a very look forward to feature, and so hopefully as time goes on we'll see more and more examples of that come out. I've seen a lot of communities already, but most are still fairly in the early stages of construction and getting things to meld together. um, I don't know exactly how it works as far as limit. I know there's what they call a community crate, and there's a limit on that, but I don't know if that just entails the sections of property that are between and in the center of that community, and if it's considered separate from the actual plots themselves. Um, yeah, I think it's like 4,000, 5,000, something like that, in addition to the individual plot limits. I know there was a bug issue with that not working properly a little while ago, but they fixed that in time for the competition. So personally, though, I haven't gotten involved in it yet. I do have a link, I believe, to a communities guide on the Twitch channel page there in the resources section, pretty close to the top of the list. That will give you a better rundown of all the specifics. I believe there has to be like a community leader, and that's the one that determines who has access and what privileges of what they can, if they have access to the crate, if they can add things, remove things, that kind of thing. So yeah, take a look at it if you want to read a little more about what it entails. um, I think you can technically have, I think it's what, up to 20 people that can be considered like roommates or whatever, that they can actually modify the plot. But it's again, I really don't know the full details on it. I probably should, but I just haven't gotten into it myself. Excuse me, I keep like, I had some crackers earlier to try and settle my stomach, so yeah, it's a little bit expensive. Again, I know it probably sounds like a big chunk for a single player to try and set up a community, but again, if you're working in collaborative efforts with multiple players, you guys can share the costs. So anyway, back to Lily Munster's plot. In the previous version, I think it was mostly just these plain buildings without all of the filigree up top. And I certainly don't remember the moss overhanging and everything, but you can see they've Poise really expanded and added greater detail to the building structure itself. And we'll take a little closer look at that towards the end of the tour, because I kind of figured out a way to get up top so we can get a little closer look to the towers and stuff. But you can see got a little custom fountain here. I can't remember exactly what's being used for the water. I want to say it's the upside down frost spores, just because of how it looks to be like it's a little moving, but I'm not positive on that. And then the thickness of these rims or edges, those are just curved or cylinder walls, and multiplied. We get that a lot with when people are wanting to make some nice little countertops, even stairways where they have it tiered, just doing multiples of them, kind of thicken it up. And it looks like they've got 2 or 3 different kinds here. Yeah, frost spores, okay. I wasn't sure, but we've explained it. I think there was one plot, an Asian themed one that actually did an oversized one for the entire plot, and the fun thing about it is even though you can't like sink down into it like actual water, it does have a bit of animation, so it has a little bit of a rise, like the water is actually moving. And I think the larger the item is, the more visible that movement is. Or in this case where it's kind of overlapped, I think it might affect it a little bit. Again, they're using the buoyant blue crystals for this animation here that you see with the smoke and the little will-o-wisps. Off to the side here, we've got a kind of a gazebo using some domes, the overgrowth, the mossy kind. And it's kind of like, I don't know, a Knights of the Round Table feel here. You've got some of the, I think these are some of those, oh, what's it called? The taurine stuffs. Little hairpiece keeps falling out. Hey, Siskwe, good morning. Glad you could join. Taurine anvils or something. And I'm not sure what you're using for the table here. It's a nice coppery look. Is that the back of the fan? The Ichthian fan or something? And then again, the buoyant blue crystals, again, it's a big fave. And of course, the walls are the exotic decor. It's the dividers being used. It's a big fave. It's got that golden ornate decoration. The forge, is that what that? Oh, okay. For the chairs or for the table? I like the cop and the it reminds me of the sigil. Red Moon end cap. Oh, okay. The end cap, that would be from the daily from Palavar Point, I think. Again, most of these creepy trees and stuff, that's from the Shades Eve goodies. Of course, these creepy hands, those, I think we craft those. Again, the house is mostly, I think it's Grannock flavored. And then in the back, along the sides, is Draken fencing. Give a creepy look. This is the haunted house fab kit. For anyone that hasn't seen what it looks like, I don't think much, if anything, was added specifically. So this is what you see is kind of what you get for this particular fab kit. It comes with the fencing, the fountain, the trees here, the glowing lamps, and all the decoration here. And I'll go ahead and go in, even though there's nothing in here, I'll show you, for those that haven't seen the interior of this untouched. It feels like a small space, but we've seen folks actually build 2 levels inside this and have it feel pretty roomy. It doesn't get crowded or anything. I've done a few different builds in this. I actually did a beach house kind of scene where it's like I painted the ocean on the walls and tried to play around with perspective and stuff. But so there's a lot you can do. The only thing that kind of hampers many from using this particular one outside of a Shades Eve theme is because the foggy look, the interior lighting, and I think even like the music and stuff is, I think if I remember right, it's like stuck. You can't change the lighting and such. So you keep that hazy look. The only way I was able to offset it a little bit was to throw in some lighting features and just oversize them and just really brighten it up. That was the only way I was able to do it because I think currently mine is the candy house, and it looks bright, but that's because I've got like giant oversized uh, orange sconces or whatever to like really brighten it up. But if you go to one end of the house, the room, it still has that hazy look because again, I don't think you're able to modify the interior at all. Not like you would with the normal prefab home where you can change the wallpaper, the lighting, and the ceiling and the floors and all that. So yeah. Okay, so again, the little blue sparkles are coming from the buoyant blue crystals. It's just an oversized crystal and they've pushed it down into the ground so you don't see the crystal moving and you just are left with the little particle effects. This particular effect where it looks more spooky, ghosty, that's the haunted effect of some items like the hats on sticks and this particular scarecrow and such. You can see the button where it says cleanse it. You can actually turn it off and it'll come back on its own. After a time, it'll re-haunt itself. So it's just one of those weird kind of things. That's why you see this kind of glowy. It's again the haunted items. Other elements, I mean, if you're wanting to go for specific smokes and stuff, we do have particle effect decor packs in the shop, the cash shop that has smokes and screens that move. Um, Trying to think of some others, fires, different colors of fires. But there's a lot of items like lamps and things that have effects that people will use in interesting ways, like the buoyant blue crystal, for example. It's actually a huge piece of crystal that bounces up and down, but most of us have figured out that the effects are pretty enough on their own, and we just kind of hide the rest of it. It's just one of those things. This is a good little corner of the plot where you can see a lot of the Shades Eve themed decor, like the candlelit gourds and the gourds without the candles. Excuse me. We got a little moody camp here with them boiling up some of the little meat products and veggies. We got a little Jack Shade head in the pot as well. The hay piles are a big fave. It's an autumn thing, same way with the pumpkin bunches. The effigies are from Shades Eve stuff. They are a nice addition. Here's some of the headstones. There's two that you can craft. There's one of exile and then a Dominion flavor one. But then there's also the decor packs. I think that you can get some. So you get these different styled ones with the furs and the horns and things like that. There's also several fab kits that you can use if you're going for a spooky themed plot. There's not only the haunted house fab kit, there's the creepy cave, there's the one with the spider on it. I think it's webbed wood, I think is what it's called. There's also the graveyard one that has a lot more of these headstones and such to play around with. Yes, exactly, Sisquid. We've got a lot of special effects ones. These spooky windows, how they glow and they have actually a little bit of animation in them. kind of hard to see, but you can see it's kind of like glowy. A lot of people like that. They'll size it up and just zone in on a particular part. I've actually used it as a background for an entire room, and it just gives a nice effect. I've seen some people use the candles in weird ways to bring out their effects as well. Just like for smokes, a lot of people originally stuck with like the witch's cauldron or the bubbling cauldron, witch's brew, I think is what it was called. But now we have like the toxic barrels, and the teacups is pretty prevalent now since you can get those repeatedly as well. And then of course the smoke packs. We have a lot of NPC choices, dancing ones. We've got ones that are equipped with weaponry, others that are ghost-like. I think there's a few out here. Yeah, here we go. Some ghosty type versions. There's also ones that are green, so they look like they're simulated NPCs. A lot of animals and things. This here is a miniature replica of, there's a Burning Tower fab kit. It's actually a jumping challenge, but there's also the decor piece that you can size it however you want. So it looks like a kind of like a Burning Man kind of setup here. Again, fun use of all the candles, sticking them in the Hoogle eyes to make them look a little creepy. We've had other people use the creepy, spooky eyes to flash, and I think they use them on the interior more than out here. But also we've seen some use like the Orin windows to give the eyes a little bit of a glow effect. Lanterns is another fave. The red lantern, the green lanterns. So let's hop inside here. Now I will note, I did check this out, and this is how I figured out how to get up on top. The chain here actually is solid. Now this isn't the hanging chain, the regular hanging chain. This is the Osun version, if I understand correctly, because it's got the little latch on the end. So apparently the Osun one is solid, and the regular hanging chain has no collision whatsoever. So see you later, Sisqui. I hope you have fun. Fun at work. Who could believe it? So yeah, this is the Osun. I think it's either gate or fence, one of those two. The windows are all pretty much standard windows. There's some spooky ones being used, and then they made their own with 2x4s and layered glass as well, just to give some extra variety. For the little drawbridge here, it's just a staircase landing with 2 pillars. Off and into the interior, you can see where they've hung up a lot of the string lights you can get. There's one of the wreaths. I think these are meant to be faux doors. I'm not sure what this part is. I think it's one of the, oh, what is it? Something from the exotic decor pack, maybe? I'm guessing here, boy. But the divider for the door is a 2x4, and then the handles are the tops of the detonator, the one that you plunge down and make everything explode. And then, of course, the same archway that they're using for the front door. Over here, again, gratuitous use inside the house of the haunted items. This one is the blonde wig on a stick, and then you've got the scarecrow over here, and I'm sure there's yeah, there's the Jack Shade head on a stick for that one. Again, you can cleanse it to remove the spook effect, and eventually it'll come back. You'll see. But you'll notice a lot of the skulls and stuff, those aren't typically what we consider Shades Eve themed. There's a lot of what I think is Draken and Falkren decor themes for a lot of the skulls and such that you see. Same way here, the Draken spears. There's you some of those spooky eyes that they're using. Just a little extra creepy effect. The table from the exotic decor pack. Okay, I thought I recognized it. It had that same look as the dividers. Yeah, it's a really nice use of that and having the door look rounded. So into the dining slash kitchen area, again, you have the spooky, I'm like dehaunting, I'm like the exorcist here, getting rid of the ghosts, just so we can see a little better some of the details. Good places for those Arctera bones that everybody picks up in gratuitous amounts. These are some of the Shades Eve urns that you can get. Notice the spider here. That's a Shades Eve NPC, I think. The hanging skulls and such, again, those are just some typical creepy decor. I love the way they've changed up this right here to make the little clock. It's using some of those baby effigies, the little mini one. I think it's the Dominion fence posts for the hands. But look at the background. It's these skulls. I'm not sure what that is. What piece is that? That's so creepy looking with the skulls. Is that like the base of oh, what's that thing called? It's like the pile with the candles and stuff on it. Is that what that's from? It's really creepy gross, but I love it. And then of course the edges of the clock again is multiple cylinders, domes being used for that. And then it's got a little bit of layered glass on top. But what a wonderful themed clock. I mean, we have the Orin themed clock already, but we've seen most folks design their own because we don't have a large variety of other styles. Okay, so it is that one. I'm not even sure if you, let me check real quick to see if, do you have the item outside in the back? I'm gonna check. Can't remember if it's like it's actually called altar or something, or oh, I don't see one back here. But it's like I don't know, it's a weird lumpy pile of skulls and it's got candles stuck all over it. Yeah, that's a great use of that item. I'll have to remember that. Borrow the idea sometime. The one you cry out for the daily. Okay, yeah, it's some kind of altar thing. I don't remember what the actual name is. I could probably look it up, but I'm too lazy to do that. Okay, for the dining table, again, I'm gonna just despookify temporarily. You can see what's going on. See, you can see how it's already spooked up again for both places that I removed it. It just varies on how long it stays unspooked. I think everything here is pretty standard as far as, you know, no custom work aside from the table, which is hover part pieces. I love the rugs being used as placemats. And it looks like I can't tell if you've got something glowy in the bowl or if it's just reflective of what the lighting is inside here. And then, of course, the fireplace itself is again made from the Draken fencing. That's great because not only does it have little skulls inside it, but it always reminds me of like dragon teeth or dragon scales for the tops of the fencing. So it works out really nice. I assume it's probably one of the burning tracks or one of the regular campfires or something underneath here on top of the or beneath the log piles. Over here for the cabinetry, it looks like the back side of the graded floor panels. It's something I like using for like sidewalks and such, but it's really nice and clean for cabinetry if you're going for kind of a almost like a marble kind of effect. And it looks like the bottoms of pumpkin candy bowls for the handles. Again, if you put these in a position where you just see the particle effects, that would probably be kind of a fun thing. Like he's got bad gas or something. Over here, I love this part, mostly because of the idea of using the headstones as the armrests for these couches. Uh, I've seen the headstones being really cleverly used for buildings, like for some of the architecture work. But you don't see them too often being used for furniture bits. But you know, if someone's going for a particular theme of um, uh, spooky or you know Adam's Family kind of thing, being able to incorporate it into the furniture and stuff like this is really a fun idea. So it's just a pair of headstones and then the Chua pillows. Simple but effective. I love that part. And you got the creepy spider infested library part leading to the bunker house. Notice all of the creepy spider eggs. You can get those individually or in clumps. I think the individual ones are actually from the cash shop itself. Can't remember though. I love how big my shadow is here. I look huge in comparison to the actual character. I don't know why it's so big. This is probably my favorite crypt to visit. I've seen a few and I've built a few myself, and they're nowhere near as elaborate and beautiful. If you can describe a crypt as beautiful, I think this one fits certainly. It's got a lot of, again, Draken themed items for the candelabras and a lot of the lighting bits. There's the cloaks. I don't remember, vigilante or vigilant cloak or something. It's a fairly new item. It looks kind of like a curtain. I think it's a skirt. I think it's to be used like a, I don't know, waist to bard kind of thing. Um, but it works beautifully as like a very opulent kind of decoration for a crypt. This reminds me of like a vampire kind of thing as well. It's just got a creepy vibe to it, even though it looks very nice and elegant as far as the decorations. Again, Poi is a fan of the Hugel portrait, as is Aurora, for using it as like a filigree type of thing. Oh, headband just doesn't want to stay in my hair. And then using the gold framed portraits. There's different ones. There's uh, the Luminar something, and then there's like the guy, and then there's a woman one, I think, and then there's another one that looks like a knight kind of deal. But using them not only for the picture, but as just trim, it really dresses up the, I guess they're coffins or sarcophaguses or something. But it looks very decorative with the Hugel portraits being used. It's just pushed in just enough that you don't see the Hugel on there. What is it that you're using for the base here? Not quite sure. I'm not even sure what you're using for the black part of this. Looks like a 2x4 sitting here, but I'm not positive about that as well. Do you remember the item names for those? These candles here, those are the ice press ones you get from Arctera. I think there's two versions. There's like a blue one, and then I think it's either a yellow or gold looking one. Is it the grates? Oh, the for this part here. What about the base here? Is that also the grates? It looks like a solid piece. So it's graded floor panels for this part. Okay. It just has a nice color. Again, a lot of things look a little different when they're color shifted, so it's not always easy to tell even then. But the texture is nice. You see a different one here. They're using the lady's portrait. Yes, it's not as flat as the others, but it's still kind of, again, it's supposed to be a memoriam to whoever's supposedly buried inside. Here we have a nice portrait. Again, it's just multiples of the cylinder or dome, just slowly sized down to make the frame seem thick. And then it's just an oversized portrait. This is the one I use in my barbershop. She looks bald, so I just added hair pieces to her. Oh my gosh. And the pedestal is the stone fences. Oh, okay. Wow. Looks pretty slick though. I love this part. There's another one. This is that portrait, same one that's being used over there. And then up here are, these are Dominion conference tables, multiples of those being used to make this banister, or whatever you want to call it, separator. Stone fences from the architect. Not sure about that. These here, what is that? Is that the base of the what's it called? The trophy for these little drawers or whatever. And then again, the Hugel portraits. I can't tell. The lighting really kind of plays with the colors as well. What is this one? Is this the noir or the sepia version of the interior lighting? Really kind of plays with the color, because this is more like white than it is here. This is more gray in this coloring. So everything looks much darker than it probably really is. And then the center crypt is probably my favorite part of this entire room. You can see there's Merg dynamite for the little holes on the end. There's looks like Draken walls for part of it, exile walls for part of it. There's some wood trim. I think that's actually part of the wall. Then there's fencing. The rusty fences being used for a little bit of the wire work. These here too are upside down fences, just tiered up to make these little bits for the base. And then of course framed glass for the crypt itself. And then the back sides of the Hugel portraits, just again to give a lot of decoration there. I could almost see this being turned into an Asian style house, like a tea house. You know, make it a little bit bigger, give it a door, and then inset some Oriental kind of furniture that has that look. I think it's because of all of this detail here on the roofing. It just reminds me of something like that. Malvolio bust for the ones on the wall. Oh, okay. The little statue you're talking about. I see the bottom of it. Yeah, because I think the other one, isn't it kind of round? The soldier lady. Hers has got like a round bottom. Malvolio's is flat like that. Well, see, there's an alternative then. If you want something a little different and you can't afford the Malvolio ones, you could just craft up some of those or grab some of those cheap. Oh, what the heck was it called? Gear trophies. There we go. Whew. Awesome job. Again, this is probably one of my most favorite crypts to visit. Now, as promised, I'm going to go take a look. There's some more of them creepy eyes at the exterior. Now, I did this earlier. I'm probably going to fail miserably, so excuse my jumping. I'm sure I'm not going to do very well with it, but I will try to get up here. As expected. Oops. Let's try it without the. I did it earlier and I just, we're not going to be able to do it. Oh, for crying out loud. This is why I very rarely tour jumping puzzle plots. It's not because I don't like them. It's because I just am horrible with jumping. I can't. Those platform type of games are my nemesis. Why I don't play Guild Wars, because that's like heavily. But you can kind of see, if I can angle it up here, the windows here, 2x4s and layered glass, different shades of it. Exile floors or walls, one of the two. Glarus walls for the pedestals. Okay. How did I do that last time? I should have remembered where I jumped exactly. I think it was the edge of the windows there, but they seem to want to cooperate with me now. Okay, I got to mount it first. I'll give it a few more tries, and if I can't make it, well, tough tootlies, I guess. I can't even steer right. I did this. I honestly was up here earlier. Maybe I should stay next time when I get on there. Instead of. Oh, oh, oh my gosh, I did it. Okay, so this is a little bit better view of what's up at the top. Yes, it's a little kind of not cleanly finished, but I don't think Poi expected me to hop up here, but I definitely want to show some of this. Again, using some of the gravestones in different ways than actually using them as headstones. They're using them more as like decoration for the roofing and such. Same way with the braziers or whatever. Uh, I love this part here for the little, almost like a little tower kind of deal. Same way with this one being built out of the fencing, the Draken fencing. A little chua pillar for like the chimney. These here, um, you could go with just domes if you can't get access to these. But these are actually, I think it's what, a far side lamp or something. Um, that's where you get these little antennas and that greeny glow lighting that goes along the sides. But again, because it has, even though it's more associated with like the spacey part of the game, it lends itself well to the spooky part because of the green that's prevalent in the spooky lighting and everything. Elden lighting, okay. Here again, pillar for the chimney. You see some triangle pieces. That's another one of those Dominion fence pieces, the same thing that you use for the um, clock inside. More headstones here. I can't quite see what's up here. It looks like a chimney piece or something being used for the little bell tower there. But just to show you that there's so much detail put into these custom homes, even if generally speaking, probably most visitors won't bother jumping up there to see it in that up close. You still get a great overview of all the work put into putting all of those bits together to make it look like an actual functioning mansion, even though generally in this particular instance we don't have access to most of the rooms or whatever. Um, Still a really nice idea. It's a great way to do a custom house without having to worry about furnishing every single room and deciding, okay, how do you do the stairs and all of that kind of thing. It just has that nice creepy look without having to get into it too much. Okay, let me just do a little quick switch here, and I'll switch realms. Whoops. That's probably not what you want to hear. A whoops. We're going to move over to no, don't take away the exterior decorations. I know some of that is like probably solid inside. You don't want to do that. I like it just the way it is. Okay, we're loading up. I don't know how long it's going to take. Don't look at that. It's my blank house. Okay, where's the name for the one that we were going to visit? Oh my gosh. My desk is such a mess here. Here we go. We're going to Evelore Ravenwick's plot. I saw this tweeted out. I actually didn't have a plot on Entity side that I was aware of that I hadn't toured yet that was spooky flavored. Mostly because I just haven't had time to really go and visit any plots. While I do have a lot of plots listed that I'd like to tour eventually, I couldn't think of any that were offhand spooky themed that I didn't visit already last year. So since they tweeted out this one, I thought I'll take a look. And forever to load up. But this way, both regions get a little bit of representation there. Hoi being the one we visited on Jabet, and then Evalor's on Entity side. So again, you can see folks have different ways of approaching the entrance. This one you can see they're taking advantage of the smoke effects. Back here you have the crowded graves. I am sure it took some time to get that squeezed up nicely along the edge, especially in between where the teleport boundary is. It's just an effort of trial and error and patience when it comes to decorating the entry area here like you want it. I don't know what item they're using here. I suspect it's just because the poofs are brown. I suspect it's the upside down umbrella tree. But again, you can use the upside down snowy hill as well. The only difference is I think the upside down umbrella tree, you can keep it relatively small, whereas the hill, I think most people have described it as having to be a lot bigger. So you wouldn't have the small little outcropping here, it would be further out. So depending on what you want to use, there's also other items like certain rocks, the bottoms of lamps, and some of the hover part pieces and extras that are also possible of being used to cover up the teleport pad like this. Um, Basically, if the item is considered or behaves as if it's hollow, then you can kind of trick the item into slipping over or under or on top of, or however you want to describe it, to the teleport pad itself. But it takes, again, a lot of tweaking and experimentation as far as how big the item has to be, the exact position it needs to be in, and all of that kind of thing before you stop getting the errors of not being able to place the item. There are a few threads in the housing subforum section of the official forums that discuss other players' successes in finding particular items that work. Some have even left the actual KBT code for those that have that add-on that can use it to automatically place. I will say that I've tried to use those codes myself before, and I never could get it to work. I think it was Bones that actually had to come in and fix one of mine because I couldn't get one of the rocks to work like I wanted. So again, even a semi-experienced builder can have trouble. So for any beginner builders, if you're having trouble trying to figure out items, don't knock yourself too hard about that because it's not an easy thing to kind of uh, work perfectly every time. And I think a lot of us, once we find something that works, we're never moving it again, no matter what, because it's such a troublesome kind of thing. So yeah. So probably one of my favorite parts right off the bat is this groundwork here. It's just, I think it's obsidian stones laid out, and I just love it. I think it's cobblestone-like because of the gaps that are left. It's not a solid stone. It's just, it looks like it's been patched together, and I love the look of it. I think that's just the thing for me. This part here, I'm not sure what this is. I wanted to say it was fencing, but then I'm not positive because it looks so clean and straight. I don't know if it's because I think the Drenken fencing is more lumpy looking. It could be that it's oversized the bottoms of like the headstones. I honestly don't know what that is, but I love the look of it, the stones on it. They too have a fountain. This is I think it's called the Weeping Fountain. It's not a particularly easy item to get a hold of, but if you can, it really lends itself well to a spooky theme. They've added in the frozen water to make it look less barren, I guess. I've seen some actually throw in some actual water elements. Some have put in extra weeds and stuff to make it look really uh, overgrown and uncared for. Now, because they've got the frozen bits on here, you take it to mean that this is like a cold version of a spooky village, because you can see there's snow on the trees, and it appears that even the ground is of a wintry style. So you get these little snow piles as clutter as well. I don't know what they're using for the base here. It looks like the bottom of the crowded graves. It's the only thing I can think of that has this weird little texture on it, and it's being used as kind of the base of the headstone there. That one's just one of the regular crypts. Another regular crypt. Okay, so we got two directions we can go on. I'm just going to pick one, and we'll just follow that along. This here is a combination of the Red Moon vent. You've got one of those sewage pipes. Again, that's from the Palavar Point Daily. You get a variety of different pipes and uh, sewage bits. Some have the sewage coming out, and some are just like regular piping. I think there's like the L-shaped and the vertical pipe and the end cap and other things. And this one is just the little part you see here with the smoke coming out and the sewage. Um, we've seen folks use it in different ways, not just for sewers, but we've seen a few use them for like coffee machines, to pretend like this is coffee coming out. So either way is fun, but I like how they snuck in the little gourd there as well. Okay, here's a creepy little stand. This is the Draken, uh, I don't know what you call it, the great Draken shop thingy. They've added in all of these extra little goodies. It actually comes pretty barren in comparison to some of the others. Here's a little, what do they call it, a gallows or something? Again, we've seen a lot of varieties of these. We've seen some go to the extent of having the actual door with a little lever for the release on it. Some have more elaborate bracketry up here. We've seen some that are like you have to climb a large set of stairs and all kinds of things. This one's pretty straightforward though. They've got the hangman's noose. If you can't get a hold of that, you could probably get away with just using a chain um, as a representation. And they've also got the little noosed up lizard here. The rope isn't very long, obviously, but the idea is the same, so it gives you kind of, it goes along with the theme of it. Pillars and then decking pieces for the base and the stairs. Yeah, I think most of this is the base of that crowded graves bit to make all of this staircase and then the base of this little house up here. Again, I'm not sure what this piece is. The same thing that was used for the stairs at the front. Not really sure. Most of the little house itself, though, is just granite and exile pieces with fencing and the spooky windows, of course. Get in here. I take this to be a type of church thing. You got the little holy water. Okay, this is a collection plate. I was thinking it was a holy water thing. Collection plate. I think this is one of the rusty fence posts. Little view of the graveyard out back to the side. The carpeting is just Cassian walls. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, this part here, and probably these stairs as well, it looks like the base of the lop stove. It's the only thing I can think of that has that shape with the stones on it. This thing does not. I'm gonna have to do. Let me find do an extra one. It'll stay better. Here we go. The lop wooden stove, stone stove. I'm not sure. This is a good indication of when you're using one of these little pots, whether it be the toxic barrels or the witch's brew or the bubbling cauldron. Notice how the smoke is pretty long. So if you're using it on a custom house and you're putting it at the bottom, like say in the kitchen, and there's a bedroom up above, be aware that the smoke's going to go straight through the floor and show up in the bedroom. So you either have to figure out a way of kind of finding another use for it up above, or like have an extra fireplace up above in the same location as the stove for the kitchen or something like that, or just build a way of covering it up, because that will seep through. Same way with a lot of the fireplaces that have smoke or embers coming out. This, of course, is the datascape window that you can get from the, I think it's the Elder Gym vendor in town. The cobwebs, if you're looking for those, I think you can get one from the webbed wood, but I think that one is possibly the one with the uh, Elden green glowy bits. A few of these are like world drops, if I remember right, and then the others I'm not sure. They're really hard to come by. So if you get any, use them wisely, as they're kind of precious in that regard. These hedges, they come from the cash shop. There's actually three versions, I think. There's the winter version, an autumn version that has them all kind of brown, and then there's like the springy version that's green. And it not only comes with the squared off trimmed hedges like this, but also the topiaries, I think. Moving along. Again, more of the sewage piping. This is a faux door. It's staircase landings, looks like a hammer for a handle, and then the pillars. Again, if you're wondering about that lightning effect where it has the light coming on, that's the haunted window. Again, another faux building. Looks like they might have color shifted the door to a green. And then we have a functional building. The base of the cauldron there, that's the backside of a travel poster. Having a fun time in the bar, I guess. I don't know what sky remodel they're using, or the lighting, I guess, is causing all these little like ember particles to show up. I don't do really change the lighting and skies on most of my plots too often, um, so I don't remember the names of them, unfortunately. Here's the effigy piled wagon cart that you can get from the Shades Eve event. There's also an empty one if you're just wanting the cart itself. We've seen a lot of players use those as parts of custom vehicles, like little trucks and wagons and things, which has been kind of fun. Here's their own version of a scarecrow for their pumpkin patch. Again, there's a spooky effect from one of those haunted items. Then they're using looks like a practice dummy, and then topped it with a jack-o'-lantern gourd. Made a nice little scarecrow there. And then of course you have the haunted house fab kit, same as on the other plot that we visited. Let's check it out and see if there's anything inside. So it looks like an insane asylum. You see the sign here, it says the doctor's in. Notice how the C letter is like the one that doesn't show up very well until you get closer. And who knows why that is. They appear to be the same size. But yeah, it's candles though being used for the glowy. They have that kind of flickering effect, and they don't blink as a lot of the signs we use. A lot of us use the detonator little square blinky light. That's great for, like, exit signs and places of business like the bakery that I have mine on. And they blink, but this one, if you're wanting it to be kind of glowy but not actually disappear, this is a great use of those items. For the in part, that's just the edges of the beer uh, neon sign, the one with the star. For the padded rooms, those are just mattresses. Guess this is little lab works. Lots of the books and files and urns and things. There's that the one that's giving that little will-o-wisp effect that we were showing predominantly on the plot previous. This is that item, the buoyant blue crystal. And like I said, you just size it up really big, and then you have to push the crystal down inside the ground or whatever you're hiding it in to move it so that you just see the effects alone. Someone costumed up in the blondie wig. The strain heart, that's a pretty fun item. I think it comes from, like, I can't think of it right off the bat. There's a lot of those particular items there. It's a high level area, I think. Now remember what the space looked like in the previous one that was still empty, and notice how, again, I told you they were able to get out. Others have been able to get out uh, at least 2 floors, and this is a good example of that. Now we're on the second floor of that interior, and it still feels, it doesn't feel crowded or anything. I love this little makeshift bed. You've got the one of the towels being used as the blanket, which I thought was kind of clever. Um, and then the pillows, one or two of them being color shifted. Hard to tell if they're green. It looks like yellow and blue to me. And then pillars and 2x4s, and then just curtains for the ends. The fireplace is also pretty fun. It's just metal edge 2x4 with pillars for some of the trim work. Fireplace, and then they've added some of the colored fire with the green bits here. Now, because it's got these little musical notes, looks like it's coming out of it, I think the green is actually from one of the microphones, but I could be wrong about that. And then the tub is just calcium floors with layered glass, I believe. Yeah, to make it look like leveled water in there. The faucet part is just, it looks like the bottle tops, and then one of the Osun pieces being used as the faucet where the waterfall's coming out of the mouth. That's kind of scary with the Malvarine in there. There's some of that soul frost stuff that Siskwe mentioned earlier as a like a particle effect type of thing. There's also the hatcheries that has more of a pearly, mother of pearl looking kind of goo in it without the skull faces. I love the little day bed here. It's just some 2x4s and mostly Chua pillows with a little bit of rugs laid on top. Lots of skull bits, hanging skulls and piles of skulls for the little offering room, I guess. Probably one of the few places where we've seen the Gothic lamp actually being used. There's a surgery, I guess, being performed, which is kind of disturbing. The costume pieces on the mannequin. I don't remember what they're called, but I assume it's a costume you can get a hold of again. I'm not really sure on that. And of course, the strain heart there. This comes from, I think it's the Red Moon stuff. I don't know if it's a dungeon thing or what, or if it's from the actual reputation vendor that you can do at Palaver Point. I'm not sure where the little doctor surgeon thing comes from. Okay, did we go? Okay, so that's all of that part. This here, that's the strain overgrowth. So we got like 3 versions of overgrowth that you can play around with. Okay, on to the next little section here. Okay, this is the actual main house. We'll save that for last. I don't know if we can actually get in this thing. I think they're just using that as a faux door kind of deal. Like this is the greenhouse that's attached to the main house. It's one way of modifying a prefab home to kind of suit your needs. We've seen some add on like decks and pools and other kinds of balconies and such. I think that's what that is, uh, their own addition. Get up there. Here we have a little bit of their exotic decor showing up with the vase and the tables and the dividers. Looks like a relics room building. Having fun with the color shifting, turning the really colorful um, stained glass window into more of a black and white kind of thing. I'll see if I can get a little bird's eye view of some of these buildings later. I think this is their little tribute to the It movie with the clown. Got one of the claw pieces hanging out. I guess that's what that's supposed to be. A little creepy. It's little Easter eggs like that, though, that kind of keep things interesting. Again, a faux door, using one of those Osun wolf heads as a knocker for it. Probably a fun use of the NPC here. Skeleton dog being used as the puller for this carriage. It's hanging chains with 2x4s. Got two pillows for the cushion for the coach guy. And mostly exile pieces, the triangles, the archways, and stuff like that for most of the structure. You got the tires, of course. Cute little wagon. We've seen some that have actually built it so that you can actually go inside, but having it set up like this is just as fun. Mm-hmm. Doesn't he look all nice? And guess it's supposed to be like a wishing well. Come and drop off your monies. Oops. Little creepy bonfire going on. Again, it's haunted because of the item. And you can switch it off if you need to. And then they've just added some fire, old logs. Yes, this is the fortune teller. She's got her crystal ball here. I think it's just the upside down file on top of a red moon vent. And here's that lop stove that I was talking about, or oven, or whatever it's called. And then this is it upside down. And I think this was being used for some of the steps and things. Got that nice stone texture to it. guess this is where the witch doctors and witches get all of their supplies. This is a good example of using the color shifting to kind of jazz up the few amount of bottles that we have available to kind of make them different. So it's the file, the blue file, just recolored yellow and pink and turquoise. Same way with the other bottles that are typically orange. You've got some green and pink and reds versions of those. I saw someone tweeting out that they were wanting some more lab work type of things like bubbling fluids and stuff and pipings and like petri dishes and test tubes and stuff. But this is what we have to work with for now. Hey Faye, good morning. Glad you can make it. Okay, so there's that one. Let's on to the next part. First, I'm gonna a little. You can see some of the roof work of these majority of faux homes. It's basically like a little town or village. Nicely sectioned off. I mean, they've taken care and it, I don't know if some builders they will just kind of organically divvy up their plot or create little sections and stuff. When it comes to towns and stuff, though, I suspect I should say a good many builders probably map it out on like a piece of sketch paper or something and say, okay, I want town hall to be here and then the church here and then some residents and then maybe some shops and kind of plan it out a little bit better because everything always looks so organized and nice and like there's an actual plan that they followed. So here's an example of using some of the newer waterfalls um, for some of the water effects, and then they've added in some of the frozen water on top of that. So it looks like it's partial frozen. Here's another version of a gazebo. Um, saw the one before just using the dome. This one's using some of those cover part pieces to make the little cap for it. The base of it, just due to the shape, I suspect it's possibly the spiky crypt, but I'm not positive. It could be any number of things. You could probably make this shape if you really wanted to, just by using a couple of pillar tops and twisting a little bit of it. Pillars, of course, are just pillars. But yeah, still fun. Little addition to this little park here. The cupcake thief, I guess. This is a little creepy, having the skull on the. I call it the barber pole. It's actually from Winterfest, but yeah, like the little candy, a little creepy. But it's a good way to show off some of those, like the cookies and stuff that you get. Now they have made their own cakes and things, so you see that they're using pillows and then color shifting them to make them look like different icing layers. Now they do have the privilege of having some of those candy skulls to throw on top of it, but if you can't get some of those, I'm sure there's some other items that you could use in place and color shift them to make them a little bit more colorful to pretend that they're candy. Um, Back here you've got presumably, I don't know, ice cream or jellies or something. Again, they're color shifting. I think it's just snow clumps that have been recolored. Over here we have those Soul Frost canisters and they've recolored those. Again, a lot of this is from the the gingerbread house collection. You've got the frosting, the gumdrop bits, the window. That little bit there, I think, is one of the fireworks. And keep in mind, we've just been looking at the exterior so far, and you can tell how much they've been able to add in. Okay, that's the main house again. I'm trying to see how to get to the outside of this fencing part. Maybe I'm not supposed to. Be better. It might just be exterior work that we're not intended to actually visit. Awesome. Jump on the sign. Ugh, like awful at this. Trying to get onto the roof here. Let me see if I can go the other way. Yeah, I see it like says keep out, but I want to go over there. Anyway, you can kind of see from here, there's again that burning tower. You can also get it as a fab kit, and it becomes a jumping challenge. Don't remember the rewards for that particular one, but I'm not good at the jumping, so I never really tried it because I get all panicky and everything. So yeah, I think that's all of the exterior bits. I'm going to see if I can find a good spot over here so we can kind of see some of the uh, buildings from a different angle. I don't think they meant for me to be up here, but I'm making my way. You're wondering about the lightning strike, that comes from the Z Pre Invitational that they have every now and then. I think they just had one not too long ago. You can see the prefab home here and then other bits that they've added onto it, such as the greenhouse that we saw from below, and then the roofing up here. Here's a good shot of the housing bits from a distance. Again, most of those are prefab homes. I mean, not prefab, but faux homes that you don't actually get to enter, but still does a good job of making it look like it's a nice full little village slash town. Okay, the lightning's about to give me a headache here, so back down. So let's go ahead and go to the interior of the actual house here. This is a prefab home that they've remodeled on the outside to make it look a little different than normal. And then jazz it up inside. Now the piano, I thought it might be a Flower original, but I don't see her signature on it, so I assume it's just the person's own creation. Or it could be just Flower's alt, for all I know. But you can see similarities. A lot of folks like using the books for the keys. You see the yellow book and then the brown book or the grimoire one for the darker keys. It looks like possibly travel posters just to lay underneath. Some kind of utensil like a spoon or something for the little push pedals. 2x4s for most of the rest of it. And then some Tua pillars for these little bits here. Nice little piano design. We've seen a huge variety of those, so it's always nice to see some more versions. Again, they're using the candles for the lettering, for the get out. I don't know what they're using for the little mirror type thing. I suspect it's the bottom of a bowl or plate. But I think the metal plate is a little bit more shiny than that, but it could also be the lighting that's diluting it, so it's possible it's that. Notice the bookshelves. These are custom, just 2x4s, and they fill them up with books. Um, some of them are the actual book pile. I think it's called the Alchemist book set or something, but the majority of them are just placed themselves. The fireplace itself is a Winterfest fencing piece for the little grate here in front, and then similar to the other fireplace we saw with the metal edge 2x4 and pillars and such. Here it looks to be like a bit of a seance going on, summoning the little ghost spirit there. The little trio of pictures and then throwing the eyeballs in there to look at you is a little creepy. Nice little touch. I like how they threw the mailbox in here. Here's that Malvolio bust. The bottom of it, that's what Poi was using as the, I don't know what that's called, but for the crypt on that wall. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this from like The Shining or something with the twin creepy girls or something, the kids? I don't know. I've never seen the movie. I've just seen references to it, so I suspect that that's what this is supposed to be kind of reminiscent of. All of the like carpeted look is the Cassian walls. The chandelier here is just the nautical wheel and then candles on top. It's probably one of my favorite simplistic, rustic looking type of chandeliers. I used it in a few buildings of my own. And then having that portrait kind of creepy because there's some of them upside down. Little dining table. It's actually the back of one of the, I think it's the lady portrait. Let me see if I can show you which one I'm talking about. This one here. They've just used it as the table up top here. So the lady is actually on the bottom side because it just looks like the same shape. Don't see anything out of ordinary there. There's a creepy kitchen. The cabinetry I think is mostly 2x4s, and it's hard to tell with the lighting, but it looks like travel posters and then vintage beer mug handles for the door. the doors of the cabinet. You're wondering about the little curtain here. I think it's the Merg um, flag or banner, Merg banner. There's a number of banners that are no collision like this that you can pass right through it. Most of them are complicated because they have a stick that they stand on and the stick goes straight through the middle. But the Merg one, its little wooden part is up at the top, like a little arrow or something. It's a fave. The Skeech banner, I think, is another one. The Wolf banner as well, because I think both of those, the wooden part or the sticks are on the side, so you can use them a little bit easier. Another fave, if you're just looking for kind of like a curtain, is from the laundry lines. Um, you just have to have a way of being able to hide the other garments on either side of the door. If you're wanting something that you can just pass through that kind of looks like a curtain, most people like to play with the hanging chains for like a beaded curtain, because again, you can pass right through them. You could probably get away with using the sparking wires. Those you can pass right through them as well. And then there's, if you're going more for like an orney theme or gardening type bits, some of the moss hanging off of the overgrowth bits, the mossy ones and the regular ones. I think all of those are can pass through them as well. But it's only like the very tips of them, and the closer you get to the main part of it, the more solid it becomes. Be aware of that. And of course, there's a lot of grasses and things that you can use. Want to go that way. Again, all custom there, and they've just placed all the books, crammed them in there. Up the stairs we go. I like this part. This is, I think it's the tree portrait, and then they've inset the, oh, what's that thing called? It's the diorama, space diorama, I think. That gives the little sparkly blue bits. Then they've added the spooky eyes and then the clawed hands. I don't know what creature that's from. I don't know if it's the Wolverine one, not Wolverine, Mulverine, or something other, but they just sunk it in so you just see the hands. So it looks like it's kind of coming out to creep out at you. Again, candles for the lettering. Here we have some tarot card reading. They're just using miniaturized of those portraits that Poi used for the crypt coffins. Thought it was a nice use. You could also use the travel posters if you can't get a hold of these as easily. This here reminds me of either The Ring or I think it's Poltergeist, where the creature's coming out of the TV. The TV itself is sparking wires for the antenna for this part here. That's this one in particular is one of the Shades Eve traps, I think, because it's green. But we also have the magnetized container, which is red, which you could probably color shift to green now. And then the box itself, I suspect, is probably hard to tell because of the lighting and everything, but I suspect it's travel posters. And then the screen itself is one of the screens you get from the Screen Decor pack. They come in multiple colors, which of course kind of is moot now because again you can color shift these. But they come in a set of like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different shades, and then they have the one that's the Eldon one that moves. And this is just one of those being used. It's a really cleverly built not too many pieces. We've seen multiple TVs. I've built several myself, and we've made it complicated by adding like buttons and trying to put a little scene inside there. And some even go through the trouble of setting up a little remote control. But this is, you know what it is. There's no mistaking that that's supposed to be a TV. And really, that's, if you can go that far and have someone recognize what it is, then you're on the right track, whether you use 10 pieces or 50 pieces. Again, some color shifting to get the bottle variety there. Here we have I guess this is supposed to be like The Exorcist with the possessed body here. Again, the bed is the towel and the pillows and 2x4s and curtains. The smoke, I don't know which smoke it is. It's likely from the decor set that you get from the cash shop. And of course, we've seen this, people floating objects in the middle to make it look like it's like a, things are possessed, being moved. It's also been used in those that try to make underwater scenes, make it look like things are floating in the water. Not an easy thing to pull off effectively throughout a building, but here's a haunted baby room. Got those little creepy twins again. Candles for their eyes this time. I like the little baby bed. It's just using some of those Osun weapon racks, I think, which is a little weird. And then I think it's a Chua pillow, and then just the little blanket there is a towel. The towels, by the way, come from the Boxing Gym Fab Kit. You just have to make it past the 4th challenger. You don't have to actually complete the challenge if you're like me and then am unable to actually complete it. Don't fret, you can still get a hold of the towels pretty easily just by getting past the 4th competitor. You'll get either the striped one that is like this or the one with the little carrot on it. And then the creepy toilet, strange snaky thing coming out of it. You got the little help me written on the shower wall. That's with 2x4s. Creepy lagoon monster called a Nerid. Bottles for the handles on that. The shower head itself is, I think, the garden hose. The little lipstick looking things, those are the fireworks. And again, I think this is the bottom side of a plate, and then they've added in the spooky eyes. Comes from the Shades Eve event. And I think that's it. Like a little alien thing open out there. The faux door here, that's just one of those cabinets. There's an open one and then there's a closed one. If you're wondering about the spooky eyes here, that's actually the wall remodel for this particular house. I forget what it's called, but it comes with the spooky eyes on its own. Notice they don't blink though. So yeah, I think that's it for the house. I believe this was the spacious exile home, and then they've just divvied it up nicely. Lots of candles. I mean, they're practically everywhere. Okay, so that was A Raven's Respite by Evelore Ravenwick. See if I can get up there well enough. Really kind of hard to see the town from here. I mean, there's a lot of that smoke effect that they're putting in. to really make it more creepy and like a Sleepy Hollow kind of thing. But yeah, for those of you that maybe hope to set up a spooky plot in the future, you know, while they didn't have a Shades Eve housing competition this year, um, that's not to say that they won't next year, um, or that they have a general one that you can, you know, throw in next time. So if you're looking for some ideas, this is a great plot to visit, as well as the one on Jabbit, the Lily Munster one from Poi. Both have equally great ideas and utilizing some of these spooky items in unique and interesting ways. Again, some of this you can use even if you don't opt to make a spooky plot. I mean, a fountain like this, you can change the centerpiece and still have it look fun with the way that they've set it up. Same way with interesting ideas of how to do building structures. If you're not good with architecture and trying to figure out nice ways to do the roofing and make it look like an actual little town setup, this is a great plot to come and check out. Same way with the mansion on Poise plot. If you're looking for a full custom built, you know, structure and looking for a way of how to do the exterior and divvy up interiors, both of these plots are equally inspiring as far as giving you ideas on how to work that to your benefit. So I hope you guys enjoyed today. Um, I'm glad I was able to stick it out, even though my stomach wasn't really wanting to cooperate. Um, that'll be the end for October, I guess, since we'll be starting a new month next week. Again, I will be keeping my eye out for the Community Showdown winners announcement and see if they will be giving us a list of all of those. And hopefully, fingers crossed, things go well, we'll be able to do our first community tour next week. I don't know if I'm going to try and do the full community plot all at once or if we're going to break it down into a 2-week kind of showcase. And I don't know how I'm going to alternate between the communities and the individual plots because I don't want to completely ignore individual works that decide that they don't want to be part of a community build. But we'll work that out as we go. I think it just depends on the complexity of the communities, how detailed they are. If we get, you know, you've seen some homes that take, you know, 30, 40 minutes to go through, and others we can spend hours looking at them, you know, and so it just really depends on how much custom built work we come across, and you know, just how Gabby I am in general. But thank you guys for joining. I hope you walk away with some ideas for your own works. Um, and I hope that everyone's enjoying some decent weather. It's been kind of overcast here and windy. So hoping that everyone else is having similar or better weather than myself. Uh, good luck on any projects you're working on, and have a good time. See you guys later. Bye-bye.